Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Try It Out Tuesday. We're going to be doing some art journaling tonight using distress glazes and a few other things. So we'll wait for a few people to join on and then we will get started. Okay. Still don't have a new chair. Squeaky McSqueak. It's been doing it for years. If you're not new here, you will know that. Right, let's go on. Okay. Hi Alison, hi Sonia. Are you all right? I do hope so. Oh, I was meant to look for something else before I started. Oh, luckily it's right here. Check me out for organisation. That's rather good, isn't it? Well, I'll tell you what I don't have though. I'm planning to use the media papers and I don't have any water for my collage medium. So bear with. Okay. Here we go. Marvellously easy peasy lemon squeezy. First day with the new class today. Oh, bless you, darling. Did it go well? Were they good? Were they completely exhausted by the end of the day? I imagine they were. Bless them. Katie's first day back today. Shattered. Absolutely shattered. Righty-ho. So here we go. Now, tonight I'm going to be working in my small Dilutions creative journal. As always, I like to start going a little bit through the journals because not everybody has one yet and not everybody, knows them. Hello, Julia. Hello, Sammy. Hello, everyone else that's joined too. And I do like to go through the journals a bit because a lot of people haven't committed to one yet or they're not sure. But what I will first say is if you are new to Try It Out Tuesday, hello. Okay, Try It Out Tuesdays, they are a bit longer. Okay, so if you are catching up or you're catching up on YouTube, get yourself a cup of tea. Do a little pause and get yourself a cup of tea because they are a little bit longer because we sometimes go through the project and do a complete project from start to finish. So it can take a little bit of time. And we are looking at doing shorter videos for YouTube. Anyway. Oh, and occasionally I speak at the speed of light. I do try. Okay. I try not to, I should say. Right. So we're going to be working in our small creative journal today. If you haven't gone into art journaling yet, your Dilutions creative journals are actually really good start out journals, and the reason for that is well, there's actually a multitude of reasons. Okay, so this is the small one, which means you've got small pages that aren't too daunting in terms of what you've got to put in them. You can have a play. They're great. They're absolutely fantastic for playing with and testing product. Okay, the media stock that's in these is absolutely fantastic. I regularly rip it out of my big one because it's just so good and so useful to use and so good with all the different sorts of mediums. I'm coming back to this page because we're going to do this one. But there's also lots of it. There's lots and lots of it in terms of, per sheet money. This is the best one. You can also look at the Creativity Big Journal. You can also look at the Classics, which has got the black, the media card, the off-white media card, and manila, that's the word, and black card in it as well, in the craft. So, that's a really good one as well. So I just think the Dilutions ones, if you just start, it's a nice, easy to stamp on smooth surface as well. So, if you are starting to stamp into your journal, the media journal from Dina Wakley, that obviously I absolutely adore, but it is very textured. Okay, and if you're not confident stamping in it, it can, just stress you out a little bit. Whereas in here, it's lovely and smooth, easy peasy. And as you can see, I test a lot of product and play with product in here because it's fun. However, I honestly can't remember the last time I worked in here. And in all honesty, I'm finding the small page a bit daunting because I'm used to working on at least something that size, that's twice the size. So this is going to be a really cool challenge for me, and I'm actually quite looking forward to it. And I thought today I'm going to grab some things that I haven't picked up in a while. So that's why I've gone for my lovely little creative journal, which I also use as a sketching book sometimes as well. And my distress embossing glazes. My distress embossing glazes, whenever I get them out, they reside on my table for a couple of weeks. And then I'll put them back as I get something else out. And that's how I think it's because I never clear down my desk. But they haven't been out in a very long while. Okay. My distress embossing glazes. Now, if you haven't seen these before, in terms of the distress catalogue, they're a relatively new thing. They're only a couple of years old since they're being launched. And there is only half the current, well, less than half of the current distress colour palette available in embossing glaze. So that gives you an idea. Alright, see, Alison's saying there, I need to get mine out again, exactly. Okay, now, for those that don't know, distress embossing glaze is not, well, it is an embossing powder. Let's just say that for a fact. It is an embossing powder, obviously, because you heat it and it melts. It's a melting acrylic, you know, it's thermographic, all this sort of thing. But it's not an embossing powder in the traditional sense, because an embossing powder in a traditional sense is opaque, okay? Which in fairness, it can be great, because if you can't find your embossing ink pad, so you just stamp it in another one that's pigment ink, it doesn't matter because you can't see the colour. Because if you put gold powder on, it comes out gold. Fabulous, okay, which is really good, really good. But these are more of a glaze, and the reason they're called a glaze, and the way Tim Holtz described it was, think of a glazed donut, okay? It's a glaze over the top. You can still see the donut underneath, and that's what it is, okay? They are translucent. Now, if you look at some of the colours, for example, I'm trying to find, these ones all look pretty close actually. But if you look at some of the colours, you'll say, well, it doesn't light. Look, I've got my cracked pistachio ink pad there. You know, like that powder, it looks more greeny than maybe the ink does. Okay, and that's true. The powders are colour matched once melted. Okay, so the cracked pistachio melted on white will look the same colour as the cracked pistachio oxide. Okay, but obviously you've got that beautiful embossed glaze effect. Alright, so they are translucent. But the good thing about that is, because they're translucent, you can then build different effects over different colours. So if you're building on top of a painted, a sprayed, an oxided, distress inked background of any description, or your archival stamping, you will get a different sort of effect if you're stamping over a colour. What I will say is, if you are stamping in something like archival, even in black, if you're or any black really, if you're stamping over that and then you go over with your embossing glaze, for me, I always find it really intensifies the colour, like the potency of the black stamp, and it really makes it quite vivid, which is absolutely brilliant. In terms of, sorry, I'm just getting all this out of the way. Like I was saying, Try Out Tuesday, we tend to talk about the products first, so you can, you know, if you've got any questions, once I start, that's it. Okay, in terms of, for want of a better description, grain size, okay, on these, it is finer than, again, a standard Ranger embossing powder, but it's not quite as fine as super fine. Okay, it's sort of like a mix in the middle, which is really, really cool. Alright. So, one of my favourite things to use with these, we are going to circle back, because obviously I've got to put something on here to put them on in a minute. But I just wanted to grasp your attention, I suppose, with these. My favourite thing to put them on with, I can't lie, is the Distress Embossing Dabber. Now, Tim Holtz, by his own admission, did not invent embossing ink. He has no interest in reinventing the wheel. And there is already a Ranger embossing dabber, okay? However, it has a foam top on it, which to be honest, releases quite a lot of the ink that you don't actually need. You need a light covering of ink, which you get more from the felt tip, and you can use that for going on stamps and stuff as well, which we are going to do. We're going to stamp with our embossing dabber and Distress Embossing Glaze. Okay, we're going to do that on here in a little while. Anyway, so, like I said, circling back. I haven't used this journal in, I honestly can't remember. So let's not pretend I can, because I can't. I just can't. So we're going to start at the beginning, and I'm going to start working through. You know what I was saying when with journals I've started, I'm trying to start at the beginning and work my way through. This one is no exception. So this is a page I've obviously started before, and it's got some texture paste through what I would say is the Dinkable dots, and some book page there. And it's had a little bit of a gesso over because it's not the manila. But that's fine, we're not too worried about that. Because what we're going to do is we're going to get some of our Bee Crafty media paper, and we're going to put some of that over the top anyway. Alright, I'm not sure which one. I'm going to grab some of the backgrounds out, and we're going to decide which one we're going to go with. Alright, now again, this is something you may or may not have seen before. This is the Bee Crafty media paper. And the reason we call it media paper and not collage paper is because it's not the same thing, okay? So, with the Bee Crafty stamping tissue, or which is still hopefully on course for coming this week, but with the Royal Mail strikes now, I'm not sure. I hadn't accounted for them. I'll get back onto them tomorrow. I've lost my train of thought. With the Bee Crafty stamping tissue and Dina Wakley collage paper, for example, as soon as you put your collage medium on the back or whatever, it goes translucent. Okay? And then, you know, everything from the back comes through. With your media paper, it's more of an optional extra. Okay, it's much denser, but as you can see the colours through, but it is thicker. Okay, so it is more rice papery in a way, but the way, if I want it to go to completely translucent, I wet it with a mister before I apply it, or if I want to keep it white, I try and keep it as dry as possible whilst I'm applying it. It's, you know, that's just how I do it. So that's really, yeah. So I think what I'm going to do, actually, is I quite like the fact we could get like a few different patterns, almost. They're a little bit too far apart. I'm thinking those two from this background sheet. There are two ranges of media paper at the minute. There are the backgrounds, okay, which has text and all this sort of thing, and then there are the faces number 1. There is a faces number 2, but it's just trying to work out when we're going to launch everything we want. It's not something where this, I think it's no secret in a way that decision making is not mine and Samantha's strongest suit. Okay, so what I'm going to do, because I would like to get a little bit of that to come through if we can. So I'm going to get my mister. Does this one work? Intermittently. Let me get another one. I destroy misters because I try and mix things up, and then I'm like, why isn't it working? Oh yeah, because I've got stuff stuck in the nozzle. So I'm just going to wet that down, and you'll see it automatically becomes a bit more translucent, yeah? So we're just going to, but because it is weightier, it doesn't fall apart whilst we're doing it, which is great news. So I'm just going to get my collage medium here and some paintbrush. I bought, basically I realised how appalling I was the other day, and I bought some paintbrush reviver. So I'm going to give that a go tomorrow and see if I can revive some of my paintbrushes that I have basically destroyed with neglect. Okay, and then we're going to go over the top, so you can see we're getting some of that texture come through from, there we go. And I think that's what I love about this media paper so much. It's optional. It opens up some choices to you. Which, in fairness, I think, as we've discussed before, is not always a good thing for me. More choice is not something that I should really be given. So, is there a life for this page? I can't remember. I honestly can't remember. I will have a look. There should be. Whether it's made it to YouTube is a different thing, though, because I think it's a slightly older one. I know... No, I don't know anything. I'm not going to guess because I don't know. I was going to say I know, but I don't know. So there we are. Right, heat tool. You didn't know you could revive paintbrushes. Well, I don't know if I can yet, Sarah Lou. I will keep thy thusly informed. Because in fairness, I never have. I just usually use them in a mixed media project later. You know, cover them with gesso. I've got a really cool one. I'll show you in a minute, actually. But, yeah. I'll give it a whole, you know, watch this space, as it were. Okay. So we do want this to be quite dry, because if we're putting on embossing glazes and stuff, we want to make sure that they only stick where we want them to. Okay, but you see how the text is coming through from the book paper behind. Okay. Now, if you had something there you just wanted to cover up, okay, all you'd need to do is not add on any of the water to the media paper, and honestly, it would have covered most of it. So, you know, don't fret about that. Absolutely beautiful. Okay. Judith's being called an enabler. Well, I can beat you on that, Judith. Okay. We do actually sell, not only do we sell the embossing glazes lower than RRP anyway, we also do a bundle deal. Okay. So, yeah. Yeah, it's not quite dry yet. Not quite dry yet. Okay. But if you look, it's an easy start to a background. Okay? You can trim it up if you want. But honestly, if you haven't had a journal before, the Dilutions ones, honestly, because it's smooth and easy, like I said, I ripped the cardstock out on the regular. The Dilutions Creative Journal, the bigger one, was the first journal I ever had. And I used to run an art journaling group. I will not show you the pages because it was a very long time ago. And to one of a better description, they're poor. Like really, really not up to par. And I used to rip pages out of all the time. And the ladies used to be horrified. Absolutely horrified. But it was just such good cardstock. I used to rip it out. Absolutely loved it. It was so good. Right. So good. But yeah, the horror. Now, again, if you haven't been with us before, you might not know that when I am making pages and they are not, and it's not a double layout, I like to make them very much obviously not the same. Okay. Now, I don't want to keep this monochrome as such because basically I've got lots of beautiful distress embossing glazes that I want to show you how we're going to use. But I am probably going to keep a lot of the stamping in the background black, okay? So I'm going to go to some of these flowers from the Doodle Art Dandy Daisy, okay? We've got a couple of flower heads here. And then I'm also going to use from the Blooming Blooms Doodle Art these small flowers here. And basically what I'm going to do is just fill in this page as much as I can. We're going to absolutely fill it, and then we're going to fill it with embossing glaze colour on top. We're going to layer it up in lots of different ways. But the problem is there's so many techniques I want to show you. There is another video where I first did a lot of techniques using the Distress Embossing Glazes. If you are curious, going over things, just lots of different tags to show you the different things you can do. I will find a link for that, and I will put it on later because I don't want Sam to disappear right now in case she can't find it. And she's gone and I need to tell you something else and she's disappeared. Right, so I'm going to get my Super Skinny Slim and we'll start with the stamps on the Dandy Daisy. We're going to use this large poppy here. I'm not sure it is really a poppy, but I call it a poppy, and I drew it, so I can't. I can do whatever I like, in reality. In fairness, I could actually... There's an idea. Oh dear, I've taken my little black archival out and not put it back. Dagnammit, Beverly. Well, what can you do? I'll use Versafine Clay. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put our Dandy Daisy on first, and we're going to onto there. Let's miss that a little bit, but that's okay. We'll worry about that another time. I should put something underneath here to prop it, really. As we're making that a bit of a border, I suppose we might as well do the others now. I think my problem there, I was trying to support it and there was really no need. Just stamp it up properly. Okay, and then I'm going to move over to the Blooming Blooms, and I think we'll go for this one here. Use just some of the larger petal flowers. Okay. I'm going to put that one in there. Now, you can see that where I'm stamping in the Versafine, it's a slightly paler tone than the printed media paper, okay? But I'm hoping when I emboss and glaze over that, you'll see what I mean by the black intensifying. I hope. Assuming I do everything right. Which I'm not sure we ever should. And then I'm going to go for this here. Again, I always refer to this as the peony. It doesn't look like the peony really, but I always refer to it as the peony. So we're going to do a Blooming Blooms up here. And we're going to do one that's stamped properly down here. She says. I definitely should have put something underneath. In fairness, it would have been good for me to put just some Super Skinny Slims up there underneath there, just to reinforce it. But that's all right. And you know, I've already changed my mind. I'm going to put some colour on the back of here, because I want you to see the difference in the embossing glaze over ink as well as on the white. Okay, so let me just heat set those a second. You can also obviously use your embossing glaze as a resist, the same way you can with your other embossing powders, so that's cool too. Alright, so I'm going to get some, let's go for some bright colours. Picked raspberry and twisted citron and maybe a mermaid lagoon. Okay, and then I'm going to get my Slims acrylic block. As you can see, using inks on my acrylic block is something I like to do, and today is no different. Okay, so I'm going to take more of a carnation. Yeah, I see that, I see that. Okay, so we're going to go with some picked raspberry here. Then twisted citron here. And some mermaid lagoon at the bottom. Okay, and then we're going to wet this up again. We're going to wet this quite a lot. Okay, and then use onto here and try and stop those drips in their tracks, because I like where they are. Now what I'm loving about this is where the media paper has gone in around the raised texture paste dots that were there, the ink's following it, so you can still see the dots. That is absolutely amazing. I'm really, really chuffed for that. Possibly would have liked a little more blue, but what can you do? I'm not going back. Alright. Now, the beauty with, for example, we were talking earlier, with your embossing dabber, okay, is it applies a lovely light covering of your embossing ink, okay? So you can go and press it in if you want, but that sort of defeats the object a little while, but you can swipe over it, you can go over a template. So we could take, you know, we've got a lot of inkables on the Bee Crafty range. So let's take something like, oh, that's actually not quite dry there. I'll just dab that up a little. Okay. We could take something like the dots. Okay, this is one of our original inkables. It's actually still one of my faves. I love it. I think it's because it's so easy to use, because it has that border plus a little section plus a word if you wanted to add that in, which is a fab. Oh, hang on, my phone stopped working. I can't see comments. Sorry about that. Oh, it's gone again. Just give me a sec. There you are. Okay, so I'm going to show you some down here, because I want to show you a couple of different ways of using the glazes, right? So we're going to go through with our embossing dabber. We're going to use just that corner that this lovely template provides for us, okay, with the dots. And then I think what we'll do is we'll go with the twisted citron, because that will sort of go with what we've done in the middle, isn't it? So what we're going to do is we're just going to sprinkle that on. This is going to stick in a few more places where everything wasn't quite dry, but I'm okay with that, because I think what we always need to remember is embossing powder was created to create another texture, to create more depth. So the best thing to do is embrace it in those situations. And hey, let's face it, if I was more of an impatient person, a more patient person was my point, I wouldn't have to worry about it anyway. So we're just going to tap that down there. Wow. So, right, so this is quite exciting, because what's happened is, so I'm just going to tap some of that excess off there, okay, but what has happened, obviously it's stuck a bit to the wet here, okay, what it's also done is it's stuck around the edge of where this puddle is, so I'm actually really excited by that, okay. So let's heat that up. Now, if you're embossing dabber, for example, if you were to go further with your embossing dabber than you wanted to, don't worry, it will dry with the heat tool. If you are going on a glossy surface, I would make sure you mop that up as soon as possible, really. So yeah, so where it's just stuck to what's wet here, I am just going to heat set it anyway, because I think that's going to give a fantastic effect. It's gone a little bit on here, on the edge of this puddle too. Oh, that's going to be fantastic. Okay. This is taking a little bit longer because it was obviously quite wet underneath. Just checking all that's been turned. Yes, it has. There we go, it's going now. Alrighty. Right, so if I just lift this up again for you, you can see right here on the edge of the inky puddle, it now has a glossed edge. How fantastic is that? Fantastic! Okay, so I'm quite excited by that. Right, now I'm going to go to, we're going to go to the incredible words, which are these words here. Now, as you guys know, I am not above, and quite regularly, stamp directly off here. Now, I was going to go straight onto my block, but I think this actually might be quite a good thing, because this is just to add into the background, and we're going to do this again with another embossing glaze, okay, but we're going to stamp with it this time. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our embossing. Now they're not clean, so I am just going to give them a little wipe over because they are blue. Okay, but you can see where the Twisted Citron has gone over the black, you can still see the black underneath, okay? And it almost intensifies it in a way, which is quite exciting. That's what I like. Actually, I haven't gone over a lot of the stamping, but if I hold this up again, I just really want to show you. Okay, so if you look, where that Twisted Citron dot has gone over that stamping, which is a bit grey, and where it's gone over this stamping here. Do you see what I mean about intensifying the black underneath? I love embossing glazes, and that'll be that now. They'll be on my desk for another 2 weeks. What can I say? I'm easily distracted, basically. Look, something shiny. Right. So on to our incredible words. I'm going to go over all of these with my dabber. Now you have plenty of time to do this. In my experience, you've got a good 10 minutes, I would say, to work with this. I wouldn't stress yourself out. They do also have like the embossing pens, the distress embossing pens, which are great if you want to colour in things. You know, if you wanted to glaze some of these, you know, use your embossing pens to glaze some of the petals. I would probably do that if I knew where I'd put mine, but I don't, so I won't. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure they're all covered. Fantastic. And I'll just twist this over and put them there. Do you know what I'm actually just going to get? I've got my brayer right here. Let's just do that. And then do the same. And you can sort of see where they are. If you need to add on some more, this is just, like I say, a quick sort of background element. So I'm going to add these on back on here. So here we're going to be layering up powders on top of powders as well as on top of ink. It's a baby brayer, yeah. It's brilliant. And then, do you know what? I think we're going to go in with the salty ocean, okay? Because we didn't get as much of that blue as we wanted, did I? So I think a bit of salty ocean will go absolutely lovely. So let's pour all that on there. Now, if I wasn't doing this on a live, probably would I have left all the original layers to dry properly before I started going in with my embossing glaze? Probably. I'd like to think I would, but like I've made point of many times, I am impatient. So, whereas we can all say, oh, she would have done the right thing. Would I? Would I really? Because I think I'm just too impatient for that. Alright. So, now you can see those words on there. Right. But again, I'm just going to take this to the side. And just so you know, when I'm taking it to the side, tap it off, all I'm doing is that. Okay, I'm not doing anything. I might go from underneath. And then we've got our words on there. Okay. But you can do total coverage with your embossing glaze. Let me just, sorry, I'm just going to do a side note for a second. Okay, so for example, right, look at this tag here. Sorry, I'm going to quickly digress. Let me put that to the side. Now that powder's on it, as long as you don't knock it, you're absolutely fine. Right, so if you wanted to do a complete coverage thing, okay, right, you could get and say, do you know what, I actually want all of this to have a more vintage look. All right, get your distress embossing dabber and go, want it to have more of a vintage photo look to it. Okay, okay, so you go over that with your embossing dabber. Get your, have I got a vintage photo? Look at me saying that. I actually do. Okay, so we're going to get our vintage photo. We're going to go all over the top. And yes, I specifically picked a brown. Okay, let's get a vintage photo. Look to that. You know, I've made this lovely bright tag. No, it's not what I need for my project because my project's gone more vintagey, so that's going to be a better look. Okay, so I'm trying not to hold this because this is a tag that doesn't have a hole in it, so this could be fun. Where's my heating board? That's probably a good way to do things, isn't it? Okay, so now, okay, you have an embossing a vintage with the green, the blue and the purple. Yeah, because you can still see it's green and blue and purple, but it's got that vintage photo overlay and it's knocked back all the white to a vintage photo colour. Okay, So, do you see where I'm going? Fab, right? But you get the glaze as well. Awesome. I just wanted to, because I feel like I say, I have done another video with the embossing glazes when I first got them. Right, so now we're going to heat set our Salty Ocean stamped embossing glaze. And obviously you could do this with your embossing ink pad as well, you know. But, you know, if I'm recommending, because I do love the dabber, so if I'm recommending something, I like to show you all the things you can do with it. I'm not for 1 minute trying to imply you can't stamp with an ink pad. Right, so let's just heat these. And the good thing is you have sections, so it's good for backgrounds in my opinion in terms like this. Because you have some sections where there's been a lot of ink, so therefore there's a lot of powder. And then others where it's a bit more sparse and speckly, which is really good for adding texture. You know, it just gives a sort of mixed look, which I really, really like. Okay, so again, you've then got that beautiful glazed element added into your background with the words. Okay, but it hasn't covered anything up. So, you know, you'd say, oh, what colour are those words? Well, they're blue, which they are. But they're not opaque. They're translucent, which means you can still see the flower behind. But you see what I mean about the intensity of black on that flower now? Okay. Yeah? Fab. Right. So, from here... Whew, it's warm in here with that heat gun going. So from here, what I'm going to add in, because I think it will sort of, not clash, but sort of stand out, was that, but actually, with the book page effect of it. Okay. Did I do my nails in it? No. No, that's proper gel that I get a lady to do properly. Not very often. And where do we think? Do we think the middle or to the side? Yeah, I'm loving the fact I've done two quite colourful pages together. But they're obviously not the same, you know. I think that's quite good. And she's still got some negative space. I know. Alison, it's becoming a habit. What can I say? So what do we think? To the side, in the middle, to the side, to the side. Okay. You have spoken. And a greater shock than that, I'm going to listen. Wahaha. Right. So that is to the side. So we need some collage medium. I was just looking for my wordy stickers, but I've obviously put them somewhere else as well. Oh, for crying out loud. What am I like? No, that was a rhetorical question. Thank you very much. Okay. Again, to the left. Oh, sorry, did you mean that side? Oh, I'm not sure about that. Sorry, I'm just looking at the picture now to see what I think. Oh, there. Are you sure? No, I think it makes the circles look weird. I'm going to put it half on that middle circle like that, so it sort of frames that circle. Anyway, So I'm going to get some collage medium. So yes, sorry, you could embossing glaze that flower, obviously, really, really easily. And if you wanted to be more precise about it, you could do it with your embossing pens. Okay, so let's take some of our collage medium. We're going to put this on here, like I said, just going to frame that middle circle just there. Okay, and as I don't know where I've put my wordy stickers. You know when you're sure you put them right next to you and then they're not there? That's what I'm currently experiencing. But that's okay. Because what we're going to do is because we're going to match up with these incredible words that we've got here. And we're going to find some out of here. I think we'll just have to say it as we see it, and that's that it's brilliant. But again, you could emboss and glaze over that. Okay. Brilliant. Okay. So when it comes to adding colour to your journal pages, I think we all, and myself is included in that, we all immediately think ink or spray or paint, because why wouldn't we think that? Okay, but something like the embossing glaze not only adds that touch of colour, but it can go over any of your backgrounds without your stamp backgrounds, without covering them. So it can add that colour and a bit of gloss without covering what you've done. Okay, because of the translucency, but also which we haven't hit on, and obviously you can stamp with it and all this sort of thing. What we haven't touched tonight, but is in the other video that I will find you a link for. Okay, these are brilliant on lots of different substrates. You can use them on metal, you can use them on your wooden elements and all this sort of thing. And if you're creating something vintage and you want to create a bit of depth, you know, go over sort of like a larger piece of MDF, like for example some of our bigger cogs, okay, or you know the honeycomb from the pop outs and all this sort of thing. If you wanted to go for example some of more of your MDF pop out embellishments, you could use your door by going with this. But if you wanted to knock the shininess back a bit of steel wool knocks that back. Absolutely beautiful. You've got the colour and the sort of texture of it, but without the shine. Okay, so yes, you can do all these fabulous things, but there is so much more. Okay, which again, you can see on the others. But like I said, Sam and I are planning, and this is where you guys can help us out. Sam and I are planning lots more shorter, more easy to follow instructional videos moving forward. If there is anything specific you would like us to do, please let us know, because it's you guys we do it for. All right, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Another Try It Out Tuesday. Last week's has been uploaded to YouTube, as well as a lot of previous weeks. There's a few missing, but we are really starting to get through the back catalogue. If there is anything else you need from us, please let us know, or anything you'd like to see. Like I say, let us know, because we do want to help you. I am live tomorrow in the Crafting Together with All Brands group at 2 o'clock, and Sally will be with us tomorrow evening. Alright, so as per usual, thank you so much. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we know not everybody can buy every day, and obviously that is totally understandable, but if you could give us a like, a comment, or even better, a share, that really helps us too. Alright, so make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the bell, and we'll see you soon. Bye!